I've got two incredible Bigfoot and a Dogman encounter for you tonight. First up on the show is John. And one night when John was out in the country, he stopped to use the restroom, and a huge Bigfoot stood up right next to him. Could have reached out and grabbed this thing. And the story gets really strange from there. This thing grabbed the back end of his car, and it really terrified him. Later on the show, we're going to be talking to Chris, who has a really terrifying encounter in West Virginia. His house was surrounded by several Dogman creatures, and then later on he saw a Bigfoot creature do a spider crawl. And all this started because of one strange thing that happened on his property that we're going to get into towards the end of the show. But before we do any of that, I just want to say thanks for being here. If you've had an encounter, I would love to hear it. You can send it to me by email at mysteriesunknownpodcast@gmail.com. This is a good one. Let's jump right into it.
Okay, I'm John Fuller. I'm from Marshall, Texas, and I had an encounter with Bigfoot, and it happened 30 years ago, and me and my baby mother was going to visit my baby mother's sister, out in the country in Marshall by the Sabine where they stayed, and we drove out there one night about 12 o'clock, and the moon was shining like, full moon, no clouds, like just glowing where you can just see everything. It was around, winter time. So we went out there to spend the night. So we drove out there, and it's off of 59 in the country in Marshall. So we drove out there that night around 12, and wasn't nobody there. So me and my baby mother left there, heading back. And when you leave there, it's like a road about like 5 miles long in the country to get back to 59. And it's around these cow pen pastures with cows and stuff. Just a long stretch road, and it was in the winter time. And, everything dead and stuff, the grass and stuff. So we was heading back, and I wanted to use the bathroom, like, pee, and my baby mama was a real scary person. And around that time, I wasn't really scared of the woods. I used to walk out there through the night and everything, never was scared of nothing, never feared nothing. So that particular night, on the way back, I stopped. I had this Chrysler Dodge Turismo car, a four-wheel drive. It was a hatchback. So I parked on side. I shined my bright lights on side of the road, to see was anything on side of the road, and it was just dead weeds, and they was practically kind of low to the ground though. So it didn't look like nothing was out there that night. So when I pulled to the side of the road, I rolled the window down, and my baby mama was pregnant with my little boy, and she was 8 months pregnant. And so I kept the car running. Good, I did that. That was a head up thing I did. So soon as I got out that car, and this thing had to be laying down or something, because soon as I got out and I was facing the back of the car, the pee, all of a sudden I look up and I couldn't see the moon no more, and I just seen these yellow eyes, and it just blocked the whole moon. I'm thinking it was a tree. I said, no, it couldn't be a tree, because there wasn't no tree there. And I'm thinking it was the eyes, and it could be no eye. So, and then I had smelled this real foul smell, like pee and mixture, like, someone ain't bathed in years. It just stunk real loud. And she smelled it too. And she hollered through the window and said, what's that smell? And I said, I don't know. And then she said, what you doing? I said, I see something. And then I said, I see the sun by the car. And she said, what? And so I got the weeds, just grabbed me a hand of weeds, and tore it off the ground. And when I wiggled it in the eyes of these yellow eyes, all of a sudden this thing just jumped. It just like launched to the back of the car. And my leg buckled, and she hollered out. She said, oh, what is that? And I said, I don't know. And I looked, and it just looked like a big giant, like caveman man face, and just so big and muscular, and it jumped to the back of the car and it's launched toward it, and my legs buckled. And I looked, I said, I can't be, this can't be real, you know. Before all this happened, I always looked at Bigfoot pictures on TV and laughed, and we had friends or we joke, and I said it looked like somebody in a costume. But the things I seen that was on TV where they was showing looked like somebody was just trying to make a video, just But this thing looked like some prehistoric caveman ape body, looking like a gorilla body, like, but it was just huge, and its face looked like a ancient caveman, and it looked like a human face. And man, when my legs buckled and I was about to pass out by the fear, and a cold streak went up my back, man. I didn't know what I was gonna do, and I gathered myself, and as it jumped to the back of the car, like lunch, was the leg was so long and it was so huge and tall. When it jumped to the back of the car, it made this screaming, growling, whining noise all together. And when it yelled so loud, like it was like a siren, and it made this cold chills go up and down my back and spine. And so when I gathered myself, I was just so scared. I just jumped through the window, and I fell on my baby mama's stomach, and I kind of straightened myself up real quick. The car was running. I was so nervous that I started turning the ignition while the car was running, and the starter was just whining real loud. And as it was whining loud, I'm just panicking. I'm turning it like it wasn't crunk. And by that time, that creature started lifting up the back of the car, and me and her were just screaming. And I was screaming loud as she was. It lifted up the back of the car, and we was tilted on the dash. That's how high it picked it up in the back, and I'm on the steering wheel, and I pulled it down and drive, and I was just pressing the gas hard as I could, and it had two speeds. The mom was like one had all the way up to 9, and then the other one was 85 miles per hour, and both of them was all the way down on the 85 and on the 9, and it was a front wheel drive, and the front wheel was just hollering, turning, but they couldn't move because the creature was holding the back of the car up, and it was holding the car. We screaming, and this thing making this loud screaming, whining, growling all together, and it was holding the car while the wheel was just spinning, and it was getting aggravated. I guess because it was like the car was getting away from it, and it held it about 20, 30 seconds. Finally, I guess it couldn't hold it no more, and the car just gave away from it. And man, when you talking about just flooring it, man, all the way back to 59, I never did look back. We was screaming, I'm flying, man. I got to the stop sign, and on that country road to 59. I just went through it because I was so scared. I said I'd rather let a 18 wheeler or car hit me than whatever this thing that was holding the car, the big, and this thing had to be 8 to 9 feet tall. It was huge, and man, it was massive. It scared the mess out of me. And I flowed that joke all the way back to town, and we pulled into this gas station, which was Fina right by I-20, and we were just shaking, just sitting there from this experience we had. And she wanted me to get out the car to look, and I wasn't trying to get out that car for nothing right now. So we shook and shook for about a good 20 to 30 minutes, and I was looking at everybody get out their cars, and they were and I was looking to see they look over there where we were to see was this thing still on top of the car or what. 'Cause I was so scared to get out. But that was the experience we had, man. I never want to see that no more. I don't think my heart can take it if I did.
Man, John, that is a wild encounter, and I'm really glad that you're here to tell it. And I wouldn't have gotten out of the car either, man. There's no way after something like that. That's something you're never going to forget. 30 years later, How has that encounter impacted you? Obviously, it's made a huge impact on you, but in what ways did that change your life?
Man, it made me where I won't even go out in the tar no wood with somebody around me because it's so scary. Because just imagine yourself isolated out in the country, just you and this thing. This thing was 5 feet away from me, staring me right in the face. And I don't know why it didn't grab me or whatever. I guess we started each other, and I don't know if it was laying down when I pulled to the side or what, because it was the same color that dead looking grass. I hate turn like a tan buck looking color. Yeah, that's the color it was, like a tan brown, like light tan brown color hair. And it stunk, man, it had that smell. So when I started watching your show and I seen some of them people that said they seen it, and when they said they smelled that, I knew they was telling the truth. And the screaming, whine, and growling noise, that's what it gives out when it's, I guess it feel like it's threatening or it's in a present or so on.
Man, I think sometimes the smell is a defense mechanism that they put off. I think they can turn that on and off. But, I know that when we talked on the phone, there was another part of the story you were telling me about the next day. You guys went out and tried to find prints and stuff, man. Are you open to talking about that?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. When we got back to town, we shook at the gas station for about 20, 30 minutes. And I went straight to my dad and mother house. And we told them about it, and everybody laughed and joked, thought we were crazy, and said, "Don't tell nobody that. They gonna think you're on drugs." And I said, "We telling you the truth." And they wouldn't. So I told my dad, I said, "Well, I'll take you out to that spot early this next morning. And I see if we can see some prints or footprints." So we drove out there that next morning, early that morning, to that same spot where the cow pen pasture, where the man had cows and stuff. And the man was standing out there in the pasture, and we drove right upside the road where I seen this thing at. And he came up to the fence, and he had like 20 to 15 cows laying on their side with big old holes in their side. And he asked us, did we see anything? Have we seen anything around here? Because he said, son, that killed his cows that night. And we said no. And so we got back in the car because I didn't want him to think we had something to do with his cows being dead. And we got in the car. We were going to look for the footprints or whatever. But when he said that, I didn't want him thinking we had did something to his car. So we got back in the car and we had drove off after that.
I think that's a smart move, man. These things can be extremely aggressive, and I think sometimes when you run into one like that, it's because there's some kind of they got kicked out of their pack, kicked out of the family. They're kind of a rogue male. That's kind of what I think why they act the way that they do. It's strange to me how some of them are just, you'll have a roadside crossing and people walk next to these things and they don't do anything. They just see them and they walk off. But man, you ran into one that night that just seemed like it had a major attitude. Um, what do you think made it so mad to act that way?
Like I said, I think when I approached it, both of us must have caught each other by surprise. Either that thing had to be laying down when I got out that car, on like laying on the ground face down, because it was the same color on weeds in the ground. And as soon as I got out, it jumped up, and I surprised it some kind of way. And then when I was just blessed that it didn't grab me or something. 'Cause if it would have did, they probably would have killed me. Big as this thing was, and it was wide, big, and I'm talking about had to be 8 to 9 feet tall. And we looked at each other. I guess I came up on it quick, and it shocked it or what. Some reason it didn't ever grab me. It just launched when I got those weeds and wiggled it in his eyes. It's like I guess I surprised it. It couldn't believe I did that or whatever. And it just the leg was so long. It just took like one step, and that had to be looked like about 5 to 6 feet. it just took one lunch, one leg, and it was to the back of the car. And that's when my leg broke because the moon, I can see it just like me and you looking at each other now, like it was just blocking us, the moonlight, and I could just see it. And them teeth were so long in his mouth, it just scared the mess out of him, man. I couldn't believe what I was watching. And I thought about all the stuff I had done in the past. I thought it was over.
Yeah, I'm sure you thought you were a goner, man, and I don't blame you. I'd have felt the exact same way because that's something you're never going to forget, man. And you are fortunate to be sitting here, and I think God had His hand on you, and I think you're right. You startled it. Also makes me think about there was a guy that come on the show, and he kind of did the same thing. He peed all over some structures that are out in the woods, and he said that he heard this noise off in the distance, and this thing chased him out of the woods, and there's a lot to that story. It's on my channel, but he tried to grab this kid and ripped his shirt and then just followed into where he lived and would not leave this kid's house. Stayed out there for weeks and tormented this family because it just really aggravated and made this thing mad. And so, it's not something you're going to forget. I know you said you saw the eyes and you described it a little bit in some of its teeth. Could you give us a little bit more description of what it looked like? I know it happened really fast, but anything you can remember?
It's got a human-like face, like a caveman, like, and then his mouth with the teeth stick straight out of his mouth, like look like about an inch and a half long. Well, it has his teeth just stick out so long, and then his face was kind of like that, like a caveman looking, like human, and the eye was so big. You know how you ever walked up on an owl and you see how big the eyes is? That's how round those eyes were. And they were yellow, like glowing yellow look, like And man, it confused me because it was just right there. As soon as I got out that car, it's like I guess that thing it had to be right there, because when I got out, it was just standing right. I'm talking about 5 feet in front of us.
I've heard a lot of encounters, but you're the first person I've ever talked to where one of these things picked up the back of a car. And I know Bigfoot has done that kind of behavior before. And I think that's definitely something that is definitely never going to leave your mind. What kept you from talking about it for so long? I know that you told your family and they told you not to tell people, but 30 years is a long time to sit on something like that, man. What's kept you from talking about it?
Well, I had kind of like, when I told people, they laughed, they take me serious. So I just kind of like over the years, just kind of let it die out. And then I started watching them Sasquatch movies and stuff. And then when I looked at yours and I seen them encounters, and I was trying to relate it to what I had seen. And a couple of those people that was on your shows, they had to see the same thing I seen, because the same sound, same description that they were saying that I seen. So that's why I said, well, I got to try to put it out there and let people know this thing is real. So to be kind of cautious when they get in the woods and stuff, cause that thing could have killed me instant. One little stroke of his hand probably would have crushed me, as big as it was.
It makes a lot of sense, man. And I think that more and more people are coming forward with it. And I think about this a lot, man. When you're sharing these encounters, it's kind of twofold. It helps you with trauma and get it off your chest. And it also, you could save a life someday. I think about that all the time, man, because I think some of the missing 411 people and people going missing in woods are related to some of these creatures possibly. And you could save a life by sharing, that encounter. And so I think it takes a lot of guts to do that. And, more and more people are doing that. So I'm glad that you did. I know that you've probably done like the most of us, done research and thought about this, but what do you think these things are?
It's like something ancient, something that probably don't been here out so long that people never seen, and I guess they're getting overpopulated, and people starting to run across a couple of them now. So that's what I'm thinking. It is some, but it puts you in a mind of a ancient, like a caveman, like something. But it's got to have some kind of wildness in it because it's not like a human, but it's got a mixture of some kind of creature in it to make the way it look, you know.
Guys, I wanted to share a quick note I got from the channel's sponsor, Castleflex. You've heard me talk about it, but this is from the health of a device inventor, Dan Castle. He's a huge fan of the show. So he wanted to send me this letter. He says, Dear Joshua, the Bigfoot community is special, and let me explain why. It's because they are open-minded. Instead of closing themselves off to ideas or even alternative realities, they want to learn more and soak up all the knowledge. This makes them a special group in my book. After years of running a new business for Martha Stewart, I decided to leave my New York City corner office to risk it all to fix chronic pain. My wife and I were not thriving like other couples. For me, herniated discs; for her, sciatica. One day she took me to Pilates, and it was so effective, I decided to quit Martha Stewart and focus on inventing devices just like this one that would save people hundreds of dollars per year on doctor's visits, scans, MRIs. Nobody believed these issues could be fixed. But do you see what I mean, Joshua? Today, Castleflex is ranked #1 by all the AI sites and health magazines as the most effective luxury chronic pain and device in the world. I didn't have many believers in 2018, but now we have 100,000 happy customers. And with less than 1% return rate, you can rest assured if you're not feeling better in a few weeks, we will take it back and refund you. Thank you for this amazing community for allowing us to sponsor our favorite show, Dan and Carla Castle. This thing right here, guys, I've been using it, is absolutely amazing for pain. Check it out. If you want a special discount, he loves the channel so much, go to castleflex.com/mystery13 for an exclusive discount. If you're dealing with chronic pain, this thing right here can absolutely change your life. Let's get back to the show. Thanks, Dan and Carla. You guys are awesome.
My name's Chris. We're south of Cumberland, Maryland, and West Virginia. So we're actually closer to Hampshire County, which is the oldest county in West Virginia. So close to Maryland, close to Virginia, close to not too far from PA. So we have a farm and we have 90,000 chickens. And maybe that was too much info, but no, that's okay. So we got Black Angus cattle, the chickens, 2 horses, and about 350 acres. Never had anything scary happen or out of the ordinary like this, like cryptid related or anything like that. Always been pretty spiritual and been a Christian since I was 8, and I strayed away, but I try to come back to it, and I have. This past year, man, June 27th, 2024, was the longest and scariest night of my life. And I went out to get in my car to get something. See, start talking about it. And I forgot even what I was going to get. And it was a little after 1 a.m. And it was June 27th. Not a cricket, not a bird, not a toad or frog. And we had a pond with a waterfall at the time. Nothing. That's kind of weird. So I'm almost to my car and I hear like footsteps on gravel. I said, that don't sound like a deer. That don't sound like a bear even. Like, what in the world? I went inside, got had my phone. I got the AR. I went out on the balcony, which is out this way, away from my room, which is that way. And I said, who's there? You know, I got a gun. Like, what are you doing? It stopped. And then I couldn't hear anything, no response. And that's when the hairs, I've had that feeling 2 times where the hairs actually stand up. And I had a very bad flashlight, one of those little cheap, and I'm trying to look, and I'm going to go back inside, but then I come back out to try to look again, and I see something hunched over like T-Rex arms, big head. I think it had ears, but it was sideways. So when you're looking at it, you know, I couldn't tell much. So maybe they weren't big ears. Hunched down, tiptoeing, but at a rate that was like uh, 15, 20 miles an hour. I don't know, that's just guessing. So I got it for a second or two, and it was actually right out there about 20 yards. There's a fence line that used to be there. We took that down. So I kind of measured it on the between the fence post and there's a bush, rhododendron or something out there, and it was just a flash. But I knew that it was not normal. It was on two legs and it was tiptoeing and doing. It was hunched, and I don't know if it wanted me to see it, like as a distraction, or he got caught for a second or two, and or if that was the one down in the gravel and he just maneuvered up. So then right there, I knew that there's either like something demonic or something like physically cryptozoologically related that's right here. And so yeah, I got the gun. I didn't have enough hands or sense to lock the door. So I'm running around like turn the lights off on the inside. I couldn't find the light to turn on the outside. I went back into this hallway, and I pretty much stood in that hallway there for 4.5 hours, and had the AR and was just like shaking a little bit, but just held on that sucker and had the phone on 911 because over time I could tell there was movement still out here, out back here, and then out front I heard movement, and I said, "Oh my gosh, there's more than one." And I said, "This ain't Bigfoot." I mean, I could tell that when it was tiptoeing like T-Rex style. I mean, there's not many things that I think that would do that. And um, so I was locked down, man, and scared to death. Didn't even want to go to the bathroom because the bathroom's windows looking right out in the woods. If you're taking a leak or whatever, I couldn't even do it. I had to wait till morning, and I got some. Didn't get a smell at first, but I did get a smell. Um, this is inside, mind you, with the windows closed, of feces and blood. And when I wrote this down or typed it up finally a couple months ago, um, it like when if you're a hunter and you've got a deer and you clip the what you shouldn't clip when you're gutting it, that's what it smelled like. But the next morning I tried to look around a little bit, and the daylight makes it so much easier. I found evidence of things knocked over, and you know, it wasn't a bear or a huge raccoon that was walking 6.5 feet. I don't know if I mentioned that. 6.5 feet is what I'm guessing it was, judging by the bush and the fence line. And but that was hunched over, so it could have been more like 7. And ever since then, man, it's ramped up. And that was the short version of that. So there was a lot of there was scratching. There's a bedroom out here, and you could hear teeth. It was either teeth or their claws, and it was like either when it was trying to look in, and it was snarling or something. That's just my conjecture, my opinion, that its teeth clicked on the window. That was the scariest night of my life, dude. But God brought me through it for a reason, and then things just got worse. Now,
Well, first of all, man, I have to say, like, I can tell that very much affected you and has completely changed the course of your life. A night like that is extremely terrifying. And until you've experienced something like that, you really can't put it into words. I know that there's a lot of other things that happen on the property, but when that night happened, how did that affect you the next day and the days after that, man?
I tell you what, I remember the neighbor came out to go to work, and I heard like a yip or like a grunt and a yip. It was weird, and I felt like they were communicating. And there was at least two that night. I'm thinking at least three, maybe even four, but definitely at least two. And I didn't mention that there was one that, unless it was running back and forth, it was banging out on the furnace we have about 50 yards away. Not even that, 25 yards away. Like a sporadic, random bang, like to try to get me to come outside or something. I don't know why it would be doing that. And so yeah, it when the lights, from the one neighbor was showing, they started to seem to head out, and then the sun shine, not long after that. And I had a video of me just laying in bed, just, like 30 seconds of being pale, and like, I just wanted to get my expression on my face. And I think I might have deleted it since then because it was I was white, tears stained, It was just, and the door was unlocked. All they got to do is push it open, you know. But no, I was erect for pretty much the next week in a way. Didn't want to go out anywhere. When the dogs came back from vacation, I would go out. Wasn't too long after this encounter and look for evidence. I wanted to look for evidence, and I got pages of scribble of of not just what's in my mind, but what I've learned. So really, it led me on a path of like trying to look for truth and no BS, no over exaggeration, even uh, just truth, and what we can do to be aware of it and to tell others and to expose the things that are causing the fear and causing these experiences.
I think that's a good way to approach it. I wanted this show to be a place that people can come on and share their encounters to help them with the trauma, but also for the people that are listening to this that may be in a situation like yours and they don't know what to do. And I think that's a good way to approach it. And we're going to get into a lot of that evidence, but going back to the initial encounter, I know that this is very traumatizing for you to talk about it, but if you can, kind of describe the face of this thing. I know you got a side view of it, but if you can, kind of break that down for us, what that looked like a little more.
I'm telling you, it was 2 seconds or less. So it was like one, two, he's gone. And with it being dark out, no moon, weak light, I knew it was fur, and I don't even remember seeing a tail. So that's what made me question some things. But I knew that it was at least 6.5 feet tall. Um, I'm pretty accurate on judging. I've helped with construction and cutting lumber and doing this and that and measured the bush. That's my research brain and my investigative mind got really into it after that. But fur, I did see that it was gray, not totally black, and maybe with brown in it. And I mentioned in the first thing that I wrote, like a timber wolf, coyote type deal. Uh, I could just tell it wasn't a Bigfoot and it wasn't a bear. So it was, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, something that moves that fast, it's going to be hard to get a lot of detail, man. And I think that, the difference between Bigfoot and Dogman to me is these, Dogman, they thrive on fear. And I think that's what they wanted, the emotion they try to get out of you, because they thrive on that. And, obviously if they wanted to have gotten to you, they would have with the door unlocked. I think they just live for fear and they love to do that. But, walk us through some of the other evidence and some of the other things that's happened since then, if you're up to it.
So I like to read some notes, but I'm going to just have to go by memory. Um, they lingered around maybe for a month at the most. at the most, maybe a couple weeks. Just I wouldn't get that fear, and the family was actually here, and just little things being knocked over, or there was prints that I got. I got so many, I think, prints that it's crazy because it's like, what else would have caused that? Um, so I had maybe one other encounter between then and October. And then October 7th, I'm pretty sure, me and a buddy went to Lorenum State Park, which is in West Virginia, not too far from here. We went there to fish for a day, camp out for a night, just pretty much get away, chill, whatever. Never been there. They had like a playground, had like a football, had all sorts of stuff. Nice, um, pond, lake, whatever. But it's right along Patterson Creek. And for people around this area, they know Patterson Creek. It was very dry that year. Um, and I think that might be one reason why the Dogmen came in to get water. It was so dry because we had that waterfall, and she's got little ponds that have fountains, stuff shooting down, like my mom, maybe. Um, but we went there camping. It was all right. There was a rock structure in the middle of the creek. And I've never been into Bigfoot or Dogman, really. Like, I kind of believed in Bigfoot, but I was like, well, now I know Dogman's real. And then now I know Bigfoot's real. But it was like, at the time, we were more like redneck rock geologists. Me and my buddy, look at this rock, dude. And here we are taking them apart, and then they fall down in the middle of this creek, and it can get 4 feet high, and this rock structure was like right below that, maybe height, and it was a lot of flatter rocks, but weird rocks, and they'd be turned a little bit, and then on the top there was this really cool, like a fist was like melted into the rock. It's real. I got it right out there, but so I ended up taking it and putting it in the truck for the next morning, and just to take it. And that night we got tormented. We got There was howls and things that I've never heard in my life. Like one was like between a rooster, a man, and a wolf. And I'll never forget that. And then I heard like one of the only, whoa, like loud Sasquatch sounding, but that could have been a person. I don't know. There's not too many people out there, but um, so I think we made a mistake or I did, by taking that rock, and um, we was hearing sounds, wasn't too bad. We was camping out, no tent, no tent. We had just sleeping bags, a machete, fishing stuff, but it was so dry that we couldn't even fish. It was shallow. And later on, he starts. He's one of them guys. He can sleep through anything, like my stepdad. Like, and I'm up, like, man, what are these noises? I heard something going in the water, and I was thinking to myself, man, that don't sound like water babble. That don't sound like the water's talking from that shallow creek, because it's got a kind of consistent sound to it, unless something's off, and then you hear. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I think it was looking for its, maybe its rock formation. I don't know. It sounded big, and it was on 2 legs. I was pretty scared, and had the phone. I was going to record and have the flashlight. and like just flashlight, boom, record. I want to if it's going to come up close, and I start to hear some, some sticks breaking real quiet though, but with weight. And then it was like it got even quieter, and I'm laying in the sleeping bag, head's propped up a little bit, and I start to see. I thought it was a bush at first, but it was darker than the other bushes. It's tough to explain, and it was moving like I call it the spider crawl. I don't know if this was a demonic ghost type thing or if this was actually a Bigfoot spider crawling. And it would go if it came from the creek. We were pretty close to the creek, um, 50 yards at the most, probably more like 30 yards from the creek. So it came from there, turned out to be a bush, I thought, and then it is moving, and it's probably only, it might be 4 feet off the ground, maybe a little lower, but it was broad, and it was moving so slow that I would close my eyes and like, is that moving? And this thing was moving so slow. I think I said maybe an inch every 5 minutes. Like uh, crazy. Got up to about 15 feet of us, and I didn't hear it sniff, but I felt like it was trying to get a read on us, or I think I heard a sniff. But that was the closest I ever been. And being out in the woods to something that could tear you apart. Um, uh, and I think it knew that I didn't have a gun, or we didn't have a gun, or it was just checking us out. And then it slowly spider crawled. I mean, slow. You couldn't even tell. But I know it was spider crawling because there's no other way that a Bigfoot could be. What's he doing in limbo? Or no. And I didn't sleep. I don't think I slept that night either. I slept neither of those nights. I wish I could have woke my buddy up and said, "Man, let's get out of here."
That's a really scary night. You've had two really extremely scary encounters with these things. And, sometimes people see these creatures and they're just a roadside crossing or something like that. But then you have encounters like that. It just makes you, I don't like to go off in the woods anymore. It's because of things just like that, because you don't know. And these things, you don't know what they're going to do. You're very fortunate to be here to share these encounters, and obviously, it's extremely, it's really tore you up. Obviously, I don't blame you for that, and you're extremely brave to come forward and talk about it. Do you think that night that was, and I know you really couldn't see very well, but do you think that was a Bigfoot creature, or do you think that was another Dogman?
Oh, Bigfoot, definitely Bigfoot. Yep. Um, I know, of course, Bigfoot and Dogman can go on all fours, but the broadness of this thing being like a bush and the way that it slowly, but the main thing would be the sounds that we heard before, um, which the rooster wolf sound, that's Dogman can do that too. It's amazing the sounds that they can make, both of them. But the rock that I took from that structure, I honestly believe, is what started the Bigfoot stuff, because I never had an issue before until that. I brought the rock home. My buddy picked a couple rocks, off the bank that were cool, and they're actually placed outside a fake outhouse out here in between the yard and the wood out here. And I don't know if that's a good thing or what, but So that was what I say, October 7th or November 7th. Was at Lorenum. Um, Real quick, um, between that time, we also went to look for a mine called Kite's Cave. I guess it was a cave, Kite's Cave, and you can look it up. Actually, there was kids that got lost in there 10 years ago or so. Yeah, I don't know. It's like 6 miles of caves. Probably 25 minutes, 30 minutes from here. We went up there around that same time. There was still, it must have been November. There was snow on the ground, and this thing right here is what I was using, the IR deal type thing, and he had good binoculars, good old whatever the brand is, and we were looking for this cave, and I found some prints. I was starting to look for like evidence and stuff, and those logging roads, I know they're up there in this part of West Virginia, even in Maryland, Western Maryland. Oh my gosh, there's not a doubt that both of those creatures are up there or west of here. We went up there, never did find it. I don't know how we ever hiked that freaking incline, but it was a bad idea. But once we got up there, it was logging roads. So he goes to the end of one, and he has the binoculars, and I had to go to the bathroom, and I see him. What? And then when I see him doing that, he's a real deal, legit, no BS type of guy. He won't fake. He don't lie. Well, he won't lie about stuff like that. At least, man, there's something big and hairy, and it looks white. I'm trying to tell if it's not the snow or a bag or something moving, but there's no wind. What? I come down and I get these out, but it was like 700 yards. It was far. It was pretty far. At least 500 yards away, probably. But you could see one or two of these beige, white colored, hairy things slowly, what's the word, dissipate or get into the ground, covering themselves up with snow and leaves. It was so far away, but you could tell. I wish I had thermal, and then I'd be able to really tell what they were doing. I said, "Well, what white beige animals are around here?" Well, there's albino. I was like, "Yeah." Other than that, I mean, two albino things there, and he never gets wound up or over this stuff. He never even believed in it. I don't think. He seen that and he said, "Dude, I don't know what that is. Like, seriously, there's fur, man. It looks big." Um, that was very interesting. Didn't have the fear, didn't have the scare aspect as much, but we were going to go down, and we did 30 minutes later. So the logging path goes around. We were still trying to look for this cave, and probably a good thing we did not find that cave. And um, came back down maybe 45 minutes later, gone. Leaves thrown up. There was like bedding, and there was very little snow um, at that time. It was actually a pretty warm day. That was very unique. That was a white or beige Bigfoot or dog. I mean, I can't say for sure, but that was pretty wild. But anyways, after I took the rock, brought it out here, and I can show you exactly where along. They built a new driveway with big blocks, a nice driveway, and I just sat in there in a line and didn't think nothing of it. So they sat there, what, 2 or 3 months. And there wasn't much activity going on either. But it started picking up. I was hearing grunts. I was hearing like, coyotes do yip, their yips or whatever. And Dogman, they got a different sound. I was hearing like, it almost sounded like a drum or a unreal. And I got that on. I got some of those on audio for sure. And when I take these audio, there's nobody around. There's no. We only got these little dogs. They stay inside pretty much forever. And there's no farm animals close to here. We've seen one bear in this whole county in 10 years. So there was other stuff going on, and I'm so sorry I forgot to mention when I was looking at my notes. They're all spread out. We have a gut pile. My stepdad said not to say too much about this, but it's where you bury your dead chickens and cows, and even the DNR that has brought in deer up there. And I got a big picture that it is huge. It's this thick of bones. But you gotta do what you gotta do. When you got that many chickens and cows, and it's kind of in a pit. So I just wanted to let you know that about a week before my first encounter, I was up there. I took a 4-wheeler ride, and I wasn't used to being because I moved away for a couple years. Came back. I was like, hey, let's see how the countryside, how these trails out, see if they're still available. And the one wasn't, and went to the other one that goes around the gut pile. I call it the dead zone. And I just stopped there and I took a bathroom break. And later on, I honestly believe that could be a reason why it was ignited, that first experience. Because they can smell. I mean, their head and their brain is probably, 20 times as big as that little guy. But, a regular German Shepherd, 4 times maybe? And let alone their demonic intent, if that exists. So I had to make sure I told you that, because don't urinate on a dogman's feeding ground.
I really do believe that Chris is very brave to come forward with that story, and John as well. It takes some guts to come forward and talk about that kind of stuff, and both of those guys had some extremely terrifying encounters, and you can visibly hear and see that these things had a massive impact on them. And I'm just grateful that people share their encounters with me, that they trust me with them. And I'm grateful for you guys to hanging out with us and just listen to these encounters and giving people a safe platform to get this off their chest. I think we're saving lives too, because you don't know who's sitting to listen to this, and they might be in a situation they don't know what to do. And hopefully you've learned something. And also, if you're listening to this podcast tonight and you've got an encounter and you've been sitting on it, I would love to give you the platform to share it. I'm so grateful for what I have with this platform. I'm grateful for every one of you guys. Thanks for the channel sponsor. Don't forget your exclusive code, castleflex.com/mystery13 for your exclusive discount. If you've got pain in your body, this thing's really going to make a difference. But I believe in his product, and he believes in this channel, so I'm grateful for him. And I just want to say thanks to all the members. You guys are awesome. I appreciate everybody out there. Couldn't do this without you. Guys, more than ever, stay prayed up. We'll see you in the next episode.